rents have declined in San Diego. Rent is one of those critical components in the inflation equation, which has been stubborn on a national basis. Rents are up nationally, but in San Diego, they declined versus last year about 1.3%. It doesn't sound like much, but really arresting that decline, it moved us from the 7th most expensive city to the 8th most expensive city. So let's peel this back just a little bit, because rent isn't declining throughout the city. It's changing in some areas that might be surprising. The first part is in, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment declined 1.3% to about $2,300, close to $2,400. Now, we're seeing rents in expensive areas like Coronado or Encinitas. Coronado rents dropped almost 15%, and Encinitas rents almost 14%. But in much more affordable areas like National City or El Cajon or Vista, those rents have gone up. So depending where you live in the city, so National City rents went up almost 10% versus a year ago, Vista over 7%, and El Cajon over 4%. So what we're seeing is that demand for more affordable housing is very, very high. What we're seeing is a little bit decline in demand for moderate to luxury type of housing and condos. And if you look at what builders have been building in San Diego, especially condos for rent or apartments, it's really been in that moderate and luxury space. It's interesting. Streaming platforms, as a marketer, we look at this because we want to connect with individuals with advertising. And streaming platforms, beat their linear counterparts by double digits in May. Nielsen, who does the media measurement, broke it down. 38% of all viewers dedicated to streaming, about 28% to cable, and about 22% to linear TV, so traditional broadcast networks, for example. And within streaming, you're seeing, who's kind of the leader. And I think that most consumers would be surprised that it's YouTube. So YouTube almost has a 10% of that 38 points of share, and then followed by Netflix with almost 8 points. And then the rest of the streamers, whether it's Disney Plus or Peacock or Paramount Plus, all of those are kind of following on in behind. Now, what's interesting about this is that in May, cable and broadcast networks just finished what they call their upfronts. And that is when they're highlighting their new programming for the fall season, their top shows to advertisers. And so what they're hoping to do is sell all their advertising inventory to them. And the paradox is that these cable and linear networks are actually selling out their inventory, because the challenge for advertisers is, how do we aggregate a bigger audience? And still, shows on cable, shows on linear television still aggregate more people. Whereas streaming, if you're on Netflix, there are thousands of things you could look at, but the calendar's a little bit smaller. And it breaks down along generational lines. So for example, younger viewers, the advertisers are looking for that 25 to 54-year-old demographic. These are, as we saw in the jobs report, people in their peak earning years. So what we're seeing is that the younger viewers, 18 to 34, they are substantially only looking at streaming with occasional cable. That 35 to 54-year-old is kind of split between streaming and cable and linear. And those over 54 are still heavily in cable and linear TV, but everyone does view streaming. Now, what's interesting, and we'll see what happens, how people's patterns are going to change, is that all these streamers are now offering advertising tiers or putting advertising as part of their package. So for example, if you have Amazon Prime this year started advertising in their general Amazon Prime package. You have to upgrade and pay for no commercials. The other guys have gone kind of in reverse. They, like Netflix, is a ad-free platform, and they introduced a lower cost ad-supported platform for people who didn't want to pay as much as the $15.49 a month. And then the other guy, the linear programmer, so for example, NBC owns Peacock, and CBS owns Paramount Plus. Those guys started with only an ad-supported network to kind of get in, since they were latecomers to streaming, to get people to try it, and then they offer ad-free services. So they're all playing different parts of the same game, but at the end of the day, we're all going to be seeing ads on every platform.